Let me go. No, you are my wife. Zara twisted against Devon's grip, her cream wedding dress bunching awkwardly, but his fingers only dug deeper into her upper arm, hard enough that she'd have 5 perfect purple marks by morning, just like always. The hotel's crystal chandelier sparkled above them, oblivious. Devon, please! She tried to pull away, failed again. We're going back inside. His voice was soft, which made it worse. When Devon used that calm, reasonable tone, he was at his most dangerous. You're going to smile, you're going to finish the ceremony, and tonight you're going to remember who you belong to. They stood outside the Fairmont Grand Hotel, where champagne fountains bubbled and white roses climbed marble columns, and security guards in pristine uniforms pretended not to notice the bride with tears streaming down her face. Seattle had been supposed to be her fresh start, 6 months of breathing without looking over her shoulder. Devon had found her 72 hours ago. The hotel doors opened. A group emerged. 5 men in black suits that cost more than her yearly rent, moving with synchronized precision. But it was the man at the center who made her breath catch. Tall, with sharp cheekbones and ink-black hair styled back from a face that looked carved from marble. Korean, she thought distantly, and absolutely terrifying. He moved like violence wrapped in silk. Their eyes met for one electric second. His were flat, empty, the kind of dead stare that said he'd seen things that would break normal people. She didn't think, she just moved. Zara lunged forward, tore herself from Devon's grip with a strength born of pure desperation, and grabbed the stranger's face. His skin was cool, smooth, the softest thing she'd ever touched. Then she kissed him. Time stopped. His lips parted in surprise. Around them, the world erupted. Devon's shout of rage, the metallic click of guns being drawn, someone yelling in rapid Korean. But for that suspended moment, there was only the stranger's shock, the thundering of her own heartbeat, and the insane hope that she'd just saved herself. When she pulled back, his dark eyes had sharpened from dead to deadly. Devon had gone pale, backing away. You have no idea what you just did." The stranger's hand came up, not to push her away, but to rest against her throat, possessive, claiming, his thumb pressed against her racing pulse. "She's mine now," he said in accented English, voice like frost over steel. He looked at Devon the way someone might look at an insect. "You have 10 seconds to leave my sight." Devon ran. The stranger's security closed around them, forming a wall of expensive suits and concealed weapons. Someone muttered something in Korean that made the others laugh darkly. Only then did the stranger's attention return to her, and Zara saw something flicker in those empty eyes. Confusion, calculation, and something else she couldn't name. "What's your name?" "Zara." Her voice shook. "Thank you. I needed... You just involved me in something." He studied her face with the intensity of a predator deciding whether prey was worth the hunt. "That kiss? Every member of the Jade clan saw it. In my world, that was a claim, which means you're now under my protection." His thumb stroked once against her pulse, whether either of us wants that or not. An older man stepped forward, speaking urgent Korean. The stranger responded without breaking eye contact with Zara, then turned to follow his men toward a waiting Mercedes. But he paused at the car door, glancing back. "You're coming with me. That's not a request." As Zara stumbled forward on shaking legs, her wedding dress dragging on the concrete, a woman in the car's front seat turned to look at her. Beautiful, severe, with a tight ponytail and eyes sharp as knives. "You kissed Ryu Tae-jin, the serpent of Seattle's Korean underground. He doesn't feel anything, sweetheart. Hasn't in 8 years. You know what you just did?" Zara shook her head mutely. The woman's smile was blade thin. "You kissed the serpent. That means you're his now. And everyone who wants him dead," she let the implication hang, "they want you dead too." The kiss had been meant to save her. Zara was beginning to think it might have damned her instead. Oh, welcome to Love and Tension. If you're new here, you just walked into the most dangerous cultural collision Seattle has ever seen. Hit that subscribe button right now because Zara is about to make choices that'll have you screaming at your screen. Quick question, Would you kiss a complete stranger to escape your abusive ex, or would you take your chances running? Be honest and tell me, what time did you start watching this? I want to know if you're Team Midnight or Team Morning Commute. Things are about to get messy. Don't miss it. The Mercedes smelled like leather and something else, something expensive that Zara couldn't name. She sat in the back seat, still in her wedding dress, while the city lights of Seattle blurred past the tinted windows. The woman from before, whose name she still didn't know, drove with military precision, speaking occasional Korean into a phone. Ryu Tae-jin sat beside Zara, close enough that she felt the heat radiating from him, far enough that they weren't touching. He hadn't spoken since they left the hotel. Zara's hands trembled in her lap. The adrenaline was fading now, leaving behind the cold reality of what she'd just done. She'd kissed a complete stranger, a dangerous stranger, if the guns and the way Devon had paled were any indication. And now she was in a car speeding toward God knew where, with people who could kill her without breaking a sweat. But Devon was gone. That counted for something. Where are we going? Her voice came out steadier than she expected. Somewhere safe. Ryu's accent curled around the words, making even reassurance sound like a threat. Your husband? Ex-husband. The correction burst out before she could stop it. The divorce was final 3 months ago. He doesn't accept that. Ryu's head turned slightly. In the passing streetlights, his profile was all sharp angles and shadows. Explain. It wasn't a request. Zara swallowed hard. I met Devon 4 years ago in Atlanta. He was charming at first, successful businessman, or so he said. We got married fast, too fast. By the time I realized what he really was, I was trapped. What was he? Controlling, violent. She touched her arm where the bruises were already forming. He has connections to some import-export business with ties to organized crime. I don't know the details. I just knew I had to get out. So you ran to Seattle. My grandmother was Korean, Zara said quietly. She left me a little money when she passed, enough to disappear, start over. I've been here 6 months, working 2 jobs, keeping my head down. I thought I was safe. The woman in the front seat snorted. Safe? In this city, with that face? Girl, you were never safe. Ryu silenced her with a look. Continue. 3 days ago, I came home and found flowers on my doorstep. Orchids. Devon's favorite. Then yesterday, a note under my door. I found you. I was terrified, but I couldn't run again. I have no money left. So when he showed up at my work this morning and told me we were getting remarried today, that he'd fixed everything, I laughed bitterly. I went along with it, because I was too scared to say no. Until you saw me. Until I saw you. Zara met his eyes directly. You looked dangerous, but different from Devon. He hurts people because he likes it. You, she struggled for the words, you hurt people because it's necessary. I thought maybe, just maybe, necessary dangerous was better than pointlessly cruel. Something flickered across Ryu's face. Surprise, perhaps, that she'd read him so accurately. You thought correctly. Devon's the type who bruises his wife because he can. I'm the type who breaks a man's hands because he tried to touch what's mine. The possessive language should have scared her. Instead, after 3 years of Devon's ownership disguised as love, Ryu's blunt honesty was almost refreshing. So, what happens now? Now? Ryu's lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. Now, you tell me everything about Devon, his connections, his business, where he's staying, who he works for, and then I decide whether killing him solves your problem or creates more. The casual mention of murder should have horrified her. Instead, Zara found herself leaning forward slightly. He's staying at the Columbia Tower Hotel, room 847. He works for someone named Victor, Russian, I think. They move drugs and weapons through the port of Seattle using legitimate shipping containers as cover. Ryu's eyebrows rose fractionally. You remembered all that? I'm good with details. Zara's grandmother had always said it was her superpower, the ability to notice and remember things others missed. Devon used to brag when he was drunk, thought I was too stupid to understand what he was talking about. You're not stupid. Ryu pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly in Korean. You're a survivor. There's a difference. The car pulled through a gate, massive iron bars that parted smoothly, and up a long tree-lined driveway. The house at the end was stunning. Modern architecture blending seamlessly with traditional Korean design elements, all clean lines and dark wood against white stone. Paper lanterns lit a garden path, and water trickled somewhere in the darkness. It was beautiful. It was also clearly a fortress. Cameras at every angle, security lights, and more men in black suits patrolling the grounds. "This is your home?" Zara asked as the car stopped. "This is where you'll stay until the situation with Devon is resolved." Ryu opened his door, then paused. "You're under my protection now. That means you follow my rules. You don't leave without my permission. You don't contact anyone from your old life. You don't make any decisions without consulting me first." The list sent warning bells ringing in Zara's head. It sounded too much like Devon's rules. "So, I'm a prisoner? You're protected." Ryu's voice went hard. "There's a difference. You can leave anytime you want, but if you do, I can't guarantee your safety. The Jade clan saw that kiss. They'll interpret it as a challenge, an alliance with me against Victor's organization. Right now, you're caught in a power struggle you don't understand. Then explain it to me." Zara climbed out of the car, her wedding dress catching on the door. "I'm not stupid, and I'm not going to sit quietly in a corner while men make decisions about my life. That's what got me into this mess in the first place." For the first time, Ryu's expression shifted toward something almost like respect. "Fair enough. Come inside. We'll talk." The woman from the front seat, who Zara learned was named Hana, Ryu's head of security, led her through the house. Every room was a study in controlled elegance, hardwood floors, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than Zara had made in her entire life. The contrast to her tiny studio apartment, with its broken lock and roaches, was so stark it made her dizzy. Hana stopped at a bedroom on the second floor. "You'll stay here. Bathrooms through that door. I'll bring clothes that actually fit." She gave the wedding dress a disdainful look. "That thing is ridiculous." "It wasn't my choice," Zara said quietly. Something in Hana's expression softened fractionally. "It never is. Look, I'm going to be straight with you because nobody else will. Ryu Tae-jin is dangerous, not because he's cruel, he's not, but because he's broken in ways that can't be fixed. He's been running this organization since he was 18, after his parents were killed in a power struggle with a rival clan. That's 12 years of violence, betrayal, and blood. He's turned something off inside himself to survive. So why are you warning me? Because you kissed him." Hana's smile was sharp. "I've worked for him for 5 years. I've killed people for him, saved his life twice, and he's never looked at me the way he looked at you in that car." She moved closer, voice dropping. "He's going to destroy you, not because he wants to, because it's all he knows how to do. So when that happens, remember, I told you." She left before Zara could respond. Alone in the enormous bedroom, Zara finally let herself sink onto the bed. It was absurdly soft, probably more expensive than her car had been. Her reflection in the mirror across the room showed a woman in a torn wedding dress, mascara smudged, hair falling from its elaborate updo. She looked like a disaster. But she was away from Devon. That counted for something. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Ryu stood in the doorway, changed from his suit into black pants and a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal surprisingly muscular forearms. In the soft lamplight, he looked less like a predator and more like just a man. Tired. Alone. "Can't sleep?" Ryu asked. Zara shook her head. "Too much adrenaline, plus this dress is basically a torture device. Hana will bring something more comfortable." He stepped inside but maintained his distance, leaning against the wall with practiced casualness. "I had my people look into Devon. His connection to Victor is real, but minor. Victor uses him for small jobs, intimidation, collection, low-level smuggling. Devon's not important enough to start a war over." "That's good, right? It means I can make him disappear without significant political fallout. Bad for him, better for you." The casual mention of murder again. Zara studied Ryu's face, looking for any sign of emotion, regret, anger, satisfaction. Found nothing. "Does it bother you, killing people?" "Should it?" Most people would say yes. Ryu moved to the window, looking out at the garden below. Most people don't live in my world. In the underground, hesitation gets you killed. Mercy is a weakness someone will exploit. I learned that watching my father die because he trusted the wrong person. He glanced back at her. So no, it doesn't bother me. Not anymore. That sounds lonely. It's necessary. Zara stood, moving closer despite her better judgment. My grandmother used to say that survival and loneliness were two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. Your Korean grandmother. Ryu's lips quirked slightly. What was her name? Hae-jin. She immigrated to the U.S. in the 70s, married my black grandfather in Atlanta. Their families disowned them both. Zara smiled at the memory. But they didn't care. They had each other. And eventually, they had my mom. Halmoni used to tell me stories about Korea, the food, the culture, the language. She taught me to be proud of both sides of my heritage. Do you speak Korean? A little. Enough to understand that your men were making jokes about me in the car. Ryu's eyebrows rose. You caught that? I caught the tone, at least, plus Hana's expression. Zara crossed her arms. Look, I know the situation is complicated, but I'm not some helpless victim who needs a knight in armor. I survived Devon for 3 years. I can handle whatever comes next. Even if what comes next is me? The question hung between them, loaded with implications Zara didn't want to examine. Why did you really bring me here, Ryu? You could have just scared Devon off and let me go. You didn't have to get involved. He was quiet for a long moment, studying her with that unreadable expression. Finally, when you kissed me, I felt something. I don't know what. Surprise, maybe. But it's been a long time since I felt surprised by anything. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know yet. He moved toward the door, then paused. Sleep. Tomorrow we start dealing with Devon properly. And Zara, thank you. For what? For not screaming. Most people would have in your situation. You adapted instead. That takes intelligence. He left her alone with that strange compliment, and Zara found herself touching her lips where she'd kissed him. This was insane. She'd gone from one dangerous man to another, traded Devon's explosive violence for Ryu's cold control. But somehow, sitting in this beautiful prison, she felt safer than she had in years. Maybe because this time she'd made the choice herself. The clothes Hana brought were simple. Soft cotton pants, and a t-shirt that actually fit properly. Zara changed gratefully, washing the makeup from her face and pulling her natural curls free from their pins. In the mirror, she looked more like herself again, tired, scared, but still fighting. She thought about Hana's warning, about the way Ryu had looked at her, about the feel of his lips against hers, that moment of electric surprise. This was going to get complicated. But complicated was better than dead. Zara finally slept as dawn crept through the windows, her mind full of dead eyes that had briefly sparked to life, and the terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone as broken as she was, someone who understood that survival and loneliness were the same thing, and that sometimes you made terrible choices just to feel anything at all. In another room, Ryu stood at his own window, touching his lips with one finger. He could still feel it, the unexpected softness, the desperation, the spark of something he'd thought dead 8 years ago. This was going to be a problem, but he'd dealt with worse problems before. He pulled out his phone and sent a message in Korean. Find everything about Devon and bring him to me. By morning, Devon would regret ever touching what belonged to Ryu Tae-jin. Morning came with the smell of coffee and something sweeter, honey maybe, and cinnamon. Zara awoke disoriented, her body expecting the lumpy mattress of her studio apartment and finding instead Egyptian cotton sheets softer than anything she'd ever touched. For a confused moment, she thought she'd dreamed everything. Devon, the wedding, the kiss. Then she saw her wedding dress crumpled on the floor, and reality crashed back. She was in the home of a Korean crime lord who'd claimed her as his with a single touch, Great life choices, Zara. The bathroom was as luxurious as the bedroom. Marble counters, a shower with about 20 different settings, towels so plush they felt like clouds. Zara took her time washing away yesterday, letting hot water soothe muscles she hadn't realized were tense. Her arm showed the promised bruises from Devon's grip, 5 dark marks against her brown skin. Just like always, she thought bitterly. The clothes Hannah had left included more options: jeans, t-shirts, a sweater that looked expensive but felt comfortable. Zara chose the jeans and a simple black top, pulling her curls into a high puff. In the mirror, she looked almost normal. If you ignored the location and the circumstances, she could be any woman getting ready for work. Except her work now apparently involved surviving organized crime politics. Voices drifted from downstairs, Korean, rapid, and intense. Zara hesitated at the top of the stairs, then squared her shoulders and descended. She'd meant what she told Ryu. She wasn't going to hide in a corner while men made decisions about her life. The kitchen was stunning. All white counters and dark wood cabinets, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden she'd glimpsed last night. Ryu stood by the counter with another man, younger, softer around the edges, with an easy smile that looked completely out of place in this house of sharp angles and sharper people. Both men looked up as she entered. "Good morning," Zara said, aiming for confidence. "You're up early." Ryu's voice gave nothing away, but his eyes tracked her movement with predatory focus. "This is Song-woo Jin, my second in command and the closest thing I have to a friend." Woo Jin's smile widened, which is not saying much since he trusts exactly 3 people on this planet. "I'm honored to make the list." He offered his hand, switching to slightly accented English. "You can call me Jin, and you must be the woman who kissed the serpent. News travels fast. In our world, it travels at the speed of bullets." Jin poured coffee into a mug, plain white ceramic that probably cost more than her month's rent, and handed it to her. "Cream? Sugar? Or do you take it black like our fearless leader here?" "Cream and sugar, please." Zara accepted the coffee gratefully. "And I'm Zara. Just Zara, not the woman who kissed the serpent or Ryu's property, or whatever title people are using." Jin's eyebrows rose. "I like her. Can we keep her?" "She's not a pet," but Ryu's tone held the faintest hint of amusement. "Zara, Jin handles the legitimate side of our operations. Import-export, actually legal. He's also been friends with me since we were teenagers, which makes him either incredibly loyal or incredibly stupid. Both, probably." Jin pulled out a chair at the kitchen island. "Sit. You must be starving. Cook made breakfast. Do you eat Korean food? My Helmoni taught me to love it." Zara sat, the casual domesticity of the moment surreal. "Though I haven't had authentic Korean cooking in years. She passed when I was 15. Something shifted in Ryu's expression. Not quite sympathy, but recognition. "My parents died when I was 18. Car accident officially. Actually, they were killed by a rival clan leader who wanted to take over our territory." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I killed him 6 months later." Ryu said it the way someone might mention picking up groceries, which is how I became the serpent at 18. Young, ruthless, and with everything to prove. Jin set plates in front of them. Rice, seasoned vegetables, fish that smelled incredible, and something in a clay pot that steamed fragrant and spicy. He's underselling it. At 18, he systematically dismantled 3 rival organizations, consolidated power, and rebuilt our operation from the ground up. Most people thought he'd fail. He didn't, because failure meant death. Ryu picked up chopsticks with elegant efficiency. "Eat. We have things to discuss." The food was amazing, flavors exploding across Zara's tongue, reminding her of her grandmother's kitchen and Sunday dinners where 3 generations crowded around a too small table. She'd forgotten what it felt like to eat something made with care, instead of microwaved in a hurry between jobs. "This is incredible," she said honestly. "Cook will be pleased to hear it. He gets territorial about his kitchen." Jin studied her with open curiosity. "So, Zara, your ex-husband, tell me about him." Zara glanced at Ryu, who nodded slightly. Permission to speak, apparently. It should have rankled, but in this world of dangerous men and dangerous politics, she understood the necessity of trust. So she told him everything. Not just the facts she'd shared last night, but the details. How Devon had isolated her from friends, controlled her finances, monitored her phone. How he'd escalated from verbal abuse to physical, always careful to hit where bruises wouldn't show. How he'd made her believe she deserved it, that she was lucky he stayed despite her failures. He made me small, Zara said quietly, took everything that made me myself and crushed it. By the time I left, I barely recognized the woman in the mirror. Jin's easy smile had vanished. Men like that deserve to suffer. Men like that will suffer. Ryu's voice was flat, absolute. My people found him last night. He's in a secure location waiting for me to decide his fate. Zara's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. You already have him? I have resources. Ryu met her eyes steadily. The question is what you want done with him. I can make him leave Seattle. I can make him forget your name. I can make him disappear entirely. Your choice. The casual offering of violence should have horrified her, but sitting in this bright kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of Ryu's wealth and power, Zara felt something else, something dark and hungry that she'd buried for 3 years of enduring Devon's abuse. I want to see him, she heard herself say. I want him to know I'm not afraid anymore. Ryu studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real smile, sharp as broken glass. Good. Jin, have them bring Devon to the South Warehouse and tell them to make sure he's presentable. Define presentable, Jin said dryly. Able to speak. Everything else is negotiable. After breakfast, Ryu retreated to what Jin called the war room, an office down the hall with more computer screens than Zara could count and maps covering one entire wall. She glimpsed pins and markers, lines connecting points across the city. Territory, she realized. This was how Ryu saw Seattle, not as neighborhoods and communities, but as zones of control and contested ground. Jin found her staring. Overwhelming, isn't it? It's organized. Zara turned to him. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why does everyone call him the Serpent? Jin's smile was sad, because snakes are patient, cold-blooded, and they strike without warning. When Ryu decides you're a threat, you don't see the attack coming. You just wake up, if you wake up, to find your organization dismantled, your people gone, and your reputation destroyed. He doesn't just defeat enemies, he erases them. That sounds terrifying. It is, but it's also what's kept us alive for 12 years in an industry where most leaders don't last 5. Jin leaned against the wall. Look, I'm going to be honest with you because someone should be. Ryu's world is brutal. People die. Good people, bad people, innocent people, caught in crossfire. He's built this empire on violence and fear, and he's very, very good at it. I've seen violence before. Not like this. Jin's voice went serious. Devon was a small-time abuser. Cruel, yes, but ultimately weak. The people Ryu deals with? They're professionals. They'll kill you and your entire family without blinking if it serves their interests. And right now, because of that kiss, you're in the middle of it. Zara's hands tightened on the coffee mug. So what do I do? You survive. You stay alert. And, Jin hesitated, you don't fall for him. Because I've known Ryu for 15 years, and in all that time, I've never seen him care about anyone. Not really. He cares about loyalty, about competence, about people being useful. But actual emotion? That died with his parents. Then why the warning? Because you made him feel surprised. Jin met her eyes. And the last time Ryu felt anything unexpected, people died. I'm just hoping you're not one of them. The warehouse was in the industrial district, surrounded by abandoned factories and rusted shipping containers. Ryu's Mercedes pulled up to a building that looked derelict from the outside, but was clearly operational. Zara spotted cameras, newer locks, and more men in black suits stationed around the perimeter. Stay close to me, Ryu said as they exited the car. Don't speak unless I tell you to, and if things go wrong, Hana will get you out. Hana, who'd driven them in tense silence, gave Zara a look that clearly communicated, I told you this would happen. Inside, the warehouse was exactly what Zara had expected from movies. Concrete floors, metal beams, industrial lighting that cast harsh shadows. And in the center, tied to a chair, was Devon. He looked smaller than she remembered. His expensive suit was torn, face bruised, one eye swollen shut. When he saw her, his good eye widened. "Zara, thank God! Tell them there's been a mistake." "No mistake." Ryu's voice cut through Devon's pleading like a blade through silk. He moved with that predator grace, circling Devon slowly. "You put your hands on something that belongs to me. In my culture, that's an insult that demands satisfaction. She's my wife. She's your ex-wife who you've been stalking and terrorizing." Ryu stopped in front of Devon, expression utterly flat. "Let me explain how this works. I've spent the last 12 hours learning everything about you. Devon Marcus Chen, born in Sacramento, arrested twice for assault, charges dropped because the victims were too scared to testify. You work for Viktor Kozlov's organization, moving drugs and weapons through the port of Seattle. Small-time work because you're not smart enough for anything bigger." Devon's face went pale. "How do you—" "I know everything." Ryu pulled out his phone, swiped through screens. "I know about the shipment coming in Thursday. I know about your apartment in Belltown with the false wall where you hide cash. I know that your boss thinks you're unreliable and was planning to cut you loose anyway." He leaned down, voice dropping to something deadly soft. "Most importantly, I know exactly how you hurt Zara. Every bruise, every threat, every time you made her feel worthless." "She's lying! I never—" Ryu's hand moved so fast Zara barely saw it. The crack of his palm across Devon's face echoed through the warehouse. "Don't lie to me." Blood trickled from Devon's split lip. His bravado crumbled, replaced by the whining desperation Zara knew all too well. "Please, I'll leave town. I'll never come back. Just let me go." "Zara." Ryu turned to her, and his eyes were empty again. "What do you want me to do with him?" Every face in the warehouse turned to stare at her. Hannah, expressionless. Jin, carefully neutral. The security team waiting for orders. And Devon, his good eye full of terror. 3 years. 3 years of walking on eggshells, of hiding bruises, of making herself smaller and smaller to avoid his rage. 3 years of being told she was worthless, that no one else would want her, that she deserved everything he did to her. Zara stepped forward until she was directly in front of Devon. He flinched. "You told me I was weak," she said quietly, "that I'd never escape you, that I belonged to you forever." "Zara, please!" "You were wrong." She looked at Ryu. "Make sure he never hurts anyone else. I don't care how." Something flickered in Ryu's eyes. Approval, maybe, or recognition. "You heard her. Jin, take 2 men and escort Devon to the Canadian border. Give him $500 and clear instructions. If he's ever seen in Washington State again, he dies. If he contacts Zara, he dies. If he so much as thinks about coming back." He smiled, cold and terrible. "Well, he won't be thinking much of anything." Jin nodded sharply. Devon started babbling protests, but the sound faded as the security team dragged him toward a side door. Alone in the warehouse, or as alone as they could be with Hannah and scattered guards, Zara finally let herself shake. The adrenaline was crashing now, leaving her hollow and unsteady. "Did it feel good?" Ryu asked, facing him. "No." Zara's voice cracked. "It felt necessary. There's a difference. Smart distinction." He moved closer, and for once his expression wasn't empty. Curiosity lived there, and something almost like respect. "You could have asked me to kill him. Most people would have. Why didn't you?" "Because I'm not like you." Zara met his eyes. "I can't turn off my empathy, even for someone who deserves it. That doesn't make me weak, it makes me different. Different." Ryu repeated the word like he was testing its weight. Then, unexpectedly, he touched her face, just his fingertips against her cheek, so gentle it made her breath catch. "Your hands are shaking." "I know. Are you afraid of me?" Zara thought about lying, decided on truth. A little, but I'm more afraid of being weak again, of letting someone control me, of forgetting that I have choices. You do have choices. Ryu's thumb brushed across her cheekbone, and his voice dropped lower. You could leave right now. I'd give you money, a new identity, set you up anywhere in the country. You'd never hear from me again. And if I stay, his hand fell away, then you're part of my world, with all the consequences that brings. Zara looked around the warehouse, at the bloodstains on the concrete floor, at Hannah's knowing expression, at the reality of what Ryu did. This wasn't romance. This wasn't safety. This was trading one kind of danger for another. But at least this time, she was choosing. I stay, but on my terms. I'm not your property. I'm not your pet. If I'm going to be in your world, I need to understand it. I need to be useful, not just protected. Ryu studied her for a long moment. Then that almost smile crossed his face again. Jin said you were smart. He was right. Come on, let's go home. Home. The word shouldn't have felt as good as it did. In the car, Hannah finally spoke. You know what you just signed up for. Not really, but I'm learning. Learn faster. But there was something almost like respect in Hannah's voice now. The Jade clan saw that kiss, word spreading that Ryu Tae-jin claimed someone publicly for the first time in 12 years. Every enemy he's ever made is going to wonder if you're a weakness they can exploit. So what do? Stop being a weakness. Hannah met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Start being a weapon. Back at the house, Zara found Jin in the kitchen making tea. He looked up as she entered, his usual easy smile subdued. How'd it go? Devon's alive. Barely. Zara sank into a chair. Is it always like that? The violence? Yes. The moral ambiguity? Also yes. Jin poured her a cup. Green tea with jasmine, the scent reminding her painfully of her grandmother. Welcome to Ryu's world. Population, people who've all done terrible things for survival. You sound bitter. I sound realistic. Jin sat across from her. Look, I care about Ryu. He's my best friend. Maybe my only real friend. But I'm not blind to what he's become. When his parents died, something broke in him. He decided caring was a weakness, so he stopped. Just shut it all off. That's not possible, isn't it? Jin's smile was sad. You've been here one day. Give it a year. Watch him make decisions that sacrifice good people for strategic advantage. Watch him torture someone for information without blinking. Watch him choose the cold, logical path every single time, no matter who gets hurt. Then tell me it's not possible to stop caring. Zara wrapped her hands around the warm cup. You're trying to warn me off him. I'm trying to warn you, period. Because here's what I see. A woman who just escaped one controlling relationship, walking into another. Ryu says you have choices, and maybe you do, but every choice he offers you will be shaped by his worldview, his rules, his empire. Eventually, you'll forget what your own choices look like. I survived Devon for 3 years, Zara said quietly. I think I can handle Ryu. Devon was a bully. Ryu is a system. Jin stood, leaving his own tea untouched. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the friend who's watched him turn into someone I barely recognize. Good luck, Zara. I hope you prove me wrong. He left her alone in the kitchen, surrounded by expensive appliances and the lingering scent of jasmine tea, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or if maybe, just maybe, she'd found something she didn't know she was looking for. The rest of the day passed in a strange limbo. Ryu disappeared into his office, dealing with business Zara wasn't privy to. Hana gave her a tour of the estate, sprawling grounds, security systems that rivaled Fort Knox, and a panic room that made Zara's stomach turn. This wasn't a home, it was a bunker disguised as luxury. By evening, she found herself in the garden. Paper lanterns glowed against the deepening dusk, and somewhere a fountain played its quiet song. The garden was beautiful, carefully cultivated chaos, wildness contained by invisible boundaries. Like everything in Ryu's life. Can't sleep again. She turned to find him standing in the doorway, still dressed in black, but somehow less intimidating in the soft light. Too much to process. One day ago I was about to marry Devon. Now I'm in a crime lord's garden, wondering how my life got here. Choices. Ryu stepped out onto the stone path. You chose to run to Seattle. Chose to kiss a stranger. Chose to stay. Every decision led you here. Did you choose this life? No. The word was sharp. This life chose me when a rival clan leader decided my father was too successful, too influential. I came home from university to find my parents dead, our organization in chaos, and enemies circling like sharks. I was 18. My choice was to fight or die. So you fought. So I fought. Ryu moved to the fountain, trailing his fingers through the water. I learned to kill without hesitation, to plan 3 moves ahead, to trust no one, except Jin, and even then, only to a point. I turned myself into something they'd fear more than they feared my father, the serpent, cold-blooded, patient, and absolutely ruthless. And it worked. It kept me alive, but there's a cost to survival, Zara. You have to turn something off inside yourself. Empathy, fear, love. He looked at her then, and his eyes were empty again. I haven't felt anything real in 8 years. Not grief, not anger, not even satisfaction when I win. It's all just strategy, moves on a board. Zara moved closer. Then why did you bring me here? I'm not strategic. I'm complicated and emotional, and I make terrible decisions. I don't know. The admission seemed to cost him. When you kissed me, I felt surprised. That's not nothing. And when I look at you, I don't know what I feel. Confusion, maybe. Something I can't identify, which makes it dangerous. Everything's dangerous in your world. Yes. He reached out, fingers hovering near her face before falling away, which is why you should leave, before you get pulled in too deep to escape. What if I'm already pulled in? The question hung between them. Ryu's jaw tightened. Then you're making a mistake. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not going to save you or heal you or give you the happy ending you're looking for. I'm broken, Zara, and broken things cut. Maybe I'm broken too. You're a survivor. There's a difference. Or maybe, Zara said softly, they're the same thing. For a long moment, they stood in the garden while night deepened around them. The air smelled like jasmine and something indefinably green, alive. Somewhere in the distance, the city hummed with traffic and voices and all the chaos of human life. Here, in this bubble of wealth and danger, Zara felt more seen than she had in years. Ryu wasn't trying to make her small. He was acknowledging her complexity, her damage, her strength. That counted for something. Even if Jin was right, even if this was a mistake. I'm not leaving, she said finally. Not yet. Ryu nodded slowly. Then tomorrow we start your education. If you're going to be in my world, you need to understand it. The rules, the players, the stakes. Jin will teach you. Not you? I'm not a good teacher. A ghost of a smile. I tend to push students too hard. Jin's gentler. I don't need gentle. Everyone needs gentle sometimes. He turned to go, then paused. Zara, thank you. For what? For making me feel surprised. It's been a long time. He disappeared into the house, leaving her alone with paper lanterns and the fountain's quiet song. Zara touched her lips, remembering that electric moment of the kiss, how his surprise had felt against her mouth, how for one suspended second his control had slipped. She was playing with fire, but after 3 years of Devon's ice, maybe fire was exactly what she needed. Jin's idea of education started early. Zara woke at dawn to find him in the kitchen, laptop open, multiple phones on the counter, and the look of someone who'd been working for hours. Morning, he said cheerfully. Hope you like coffee because we're going to need it. Today you learn how Ryu's empire actually works. Over the next week, Jin became Zara's window into a world she'd only glimpsed through Devon's drunken bragging. But where Devon had been small-time and stupid, Ryu's operation was vast and sophisticated. Officially, Jin explained on day 2, pulling up spreadsheets that made Zara's eyes cross, we run a legitimate import-export business. Korean goods into the U.S., American products to Asia. It's profitable, legal, and employs about 300 people who have no idea about the other side. The illegal side? The survival side. Jin's correction was gentle but firm. Ryu doesn't deal drugs, won't touch human trafficking, refuses anything involving children. But weapons? Information? Protection services for businesses that can't go to the cops? That's where the real money is, and the real danger. He showed her the map from Ryu's office, explaining territories and alliances. The Jade clan controlled the waterfront. Victor's Russian organization had the northern suburbs. A Vietnamese crew held the international district. Ryu's territory was everything else, a patchwork of neighborhoods held together by reputation and force. It's like chess, Zara said, studying the pins and markers. Except the pieces kill each other. Exactly. And right now, because of that kiss, every player is watching to see if Ryu's claiming new territory or if you're a weakness they can exploit. So how do I stop being a weakness? Jin grinned. By becoming an asset. Tell me what you're good at. Remembering things, details, patterns, conversations. I used to work in data entry, mindless work, but I was fast and accurate. And, she hesitated, I'm good at reading people. Micro-expressions, body language, when someone's lying. That's incredibly useful. Jin made notes. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Ryu deals with a lot of people, allies, rivals, potential threats. Someone who can sit quietly in a meeting and then tell him afterward who was lying or holding back information, that's valuable, not a weakness. A weapon, like Hana said. They spent the next days honing that skill. Jin would show her videos of negotiations, business meetings, interrogations. Zara would watch and analyze, noting when someone's pupils dilated, when they touched their faces, when their stories didn't quite match their expressions. She was good at it, better than she had realized. Devin used to tell me I was paranoid, that I saw problems where there weren't any. But I wasn't paranoid, I was observant. Devin was an idiot. Jin paused the video. What are you seeing? He's lying. He says he's loyal, but his hands are fists. That's aggressive positioning, not submissive. And he looks at the door twice, checking escape routes. This man's planning something. Correct. That video's from 6 months ago. 3 weeks later, that man tried to sell information to the Jade clan. Ryu caught him, and Jin's smile faded. Well, let's just say it didn't end well for the traitor. Zara was learning that Ryu's world operated on harsh rules. Loyalty was everything. Betrayal meant death. Weakness was exploited mercilessly. But within those brutal boundaries, there was a strange kind of honor. Ryu kept his word. He protected people under his umbrella. He didn't harm innocents unless absolutely necessary. It's not good, Jin said when she brought this up. Don't mistake efficiency for morality. But it's better than Victor, who'd burn down a building full of people to kill one target, or the Jade clan, who use fear and cruelty as tools. In our world, Ryu's actually on the less horrible end of the spectrum. That's depressing. That's reality. She saw Ryu himself mostly in passing that first week. He'd appear in the kitchen for coffee at odd hours, always working, always on the phone in rapid Korean. Occasionally their eyes would meet across a room, and Zara would feel that same electric awareness from the kiss. But he kept his distance, as if afraid of what might happen if they got too close. Hana, by contrast, seemed to be everywhere. She'd appear when Zara was practicing her observation skills, offering critique. Good catch on the lying, but you missed the backup. See how that man's hand is near his jacket? He's armed and ready to draw. Always look for weapons. One afternoon, Hana took her to a shooting range in the estate's basement. You should know how to use this, she said, demonstrating the grip and stance with a pistol. Not because you'll need to, but because knowledge is power. Zara's first shots went wide. Her next few hit the target's edge. By the end of the session, she was hitting center mass more often than not. Natural talent, Hana admitted grudgingly, or maybe just determination. Either way, keep practicing. Why are you helping me? Zara asked, as they cleaned the weapons, another skill Hana insisted she learn. I thought you wanted me gone. I do want you gone. Hana's voice was matter-of-fact. You're a complication Ryu doesn't need, and you're going to get hurt when he inevitably goes back to being the serpent full-time. But while you're here, you might as well be useful instead of helpless. I've seen what happens to helpless people in this world. What happens? They die, usually badly. Hana holstered her own weapon with practiced ease. "Look, I'll be straight with you. I've been in love with Ryu for 5 years. Unrequited, obviously. He doesn't even see me that way. I've tilled for him, saved his life twice, spent every day watching his back while he barely acknowledges I exist beyond my professional utility. That sounds painful." "It is, but I chose it." Hana met Zara's eyes. "The difference between us, I went in knowing what he was. You're going in hoping he'll change. He won't. The serpent doesn't change. He adapts, he strategizes, but at his core, he's been the same cold, broken person for 8 years. Don't fool yourself into thinking a kiss will fix that." After Hana left, Zara sat in the basement range, the smell of gunpowder lingering, thinking about hope and foolishness and the line between them. On day 7, Jin announced it was time for a field test. "Ryu has a meeting tonight with a potential ally. You're going to observe." Ryu agreed to this? Ryu suggested it. Jin's smile was knowing. "He wants to see what you can do." The meeting was at a high-end restaurant in downtown Seattle, the kind of place with prix-fixe menus and wine lists as thick as books. Zara felt out of place in the borrowed dress Hana had grudgingly provided, her natural curls styled into an elegant updo that didn't quite match her comfort level. Ryu looked devastating in a tailored suit, every inch the successful businessman. Only the slight bulge under Jin's jacket and the way Hana's eyes constantly scanned the room betrayed the violence that underlay this elegant dinner. The potential ally was a man named Thomas Park, Korean-American, mid-40s, running a tech company that apparently needed Ryu's specialized services. Mr. Park wants protection from corporate espionage, someone stealing his designs, and he thinks it's a rival company funded by the Jade Clan. He wants Ryu to find out who and stop it. Why not just go to the police? Because the police ask questions. Ryu delivers solutions. Now, sitting at an adjacent table where she could watch without being obvious, Zara activated the skills Jin had taught her. She watched Thomas Park's body language as Ryu laid out terms, noted when Park's hands tensed, when he glanced at his phone, when his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. Afterward, in the Mercedes heading home, Ryu turned to her expectantly. "Well?" Zara organized her thoughts. "He's desperate, which makes him honest about the problem, but potentially untrustworthy about payment. He checked his phone 6 times. I think there's someone he's reporting to, maybe a business partner. And..." She hesitated. "I don't think it's the Jade Clan stealing his designs. When you mentioned them, he showed surprise, then forced understanding, like he was hearing that theory for the first time." Ryu's eyebrows rose fractionally, his version of shock. "Go on." "I think it's someone internal, an employee or partner, and I think Park suspects but doesn't want to admit it because it means his judgment failed." Silence filled the car. Then Jin laughed. "She's right. I ran background. Park's co-founder, David Leung, has gambling debts to Victor's organization. Chances are they forced him to steal designs as payment." "How did you spot that?" Ryu asked Zara. "The same way I learned to read Devon. Abusers teach you to watch for warning signs. You get good at it or you don't survive." Something shifted in Ryu's expression. "That's a skill worth more than guns or fighting." "Jin, set up a meeting with Leung. Let's confirm before we take Park's money." Back at the estate, Ryu called Zara into his office, the first time she'd been invited into his inner sanctum. The space was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden, shelves lined with books in Korean and English, a desk that probably cost more than a car. "You did well tonight," he said without preamble. "Jin's right. You have a talent for reading people. That's rare and valuable. So I'm useful now, not just a complication?" "You were always useful." Ryu poured whiskey into 2 glasses, offering her one. "The question was whether you'd survive long enough to realize it." Zara accepted the glass, the amber liquid catching the lamplight. "Hana says you're never going to change, that I shouldn't hope for anything beyond this. Hana's protective, and correct." Ryu's voice was flat. "I am what I am, Zara. The serpent, cold, calculating, and ultimately alone. Whatever you're feeling right now, gratitude, attraction, hope, it's trauma bonding. I pulled you out of danger so your brain associates me with safety. It's not real. Don't tell me what I feel. I'm telling you what I know. I've seen it before. People who think they care about me because I protected them or gave them power. It never lasts. Eventually, they see who I really am, and they leave or... He stopped. Or what? Or they die because being close to me made them a target. The admission hung in the air, heavy with implications. Zara moved closer, studying his face. For once, his mask had slipped slightly. She saw exhaustion there, and something almost like loneliness. What if I'm not leaving? What if I see exactly who you are and choose to stay anyway? Then you're a fool. Maybe, she set down her glass, or maybe I'm someone who understands that survival makes you hard, but it doesn't make you empty. You feel things, Ryu. You just don't know how to name them anymore. He was silent for a long moment, staring into his whiskey. Then, when you kissed me, I felt something, just for a second, before I remembered how to shut it down. It scared me more than any enemy I've ever faced. Why? Because feeling means vulnerability, and vulnerability gets people killed in my world. Zara reached out slowly, giving him time to move away. He didn't. Her hand cupped his jaw, feeling the tension there, the way he held himself so rigidly controlled. Maybe, she said softly, that's a problem with your world, not with feeling. For a moment, just a moment, Ryu leaned into her touch. His eyes closed, and Zara saw the exhausted man beneath the serpent's cold exterior. Then he straightened, catching her wrist gently but firmly, moving her hand away. This is a mistake. Probably, I'm going to hurt you, not because I want to, because it's what I do. I'll survive. I'm good at that. His grip tightened fractionally on her wrist, then released. Go to bed, Zara, before I do something we'll both regret. She left his office, heart pounding, very much aware that she'd just crossed a line. Behind her, she heard the clink of his glass against the desk, the sound of a man trying to drink away inconvenient feelings. In her room, Zara touched her wrist where he'd held it, not roughly, not violently, with the kind of controlled gentleness that said he was very aware of his own strength and her vulnerability. Devon had grabbed to hurt. Ryu touched like he was holding something breakable and precious. The difference mattered. Even if Hana was right, even if this was trauma bonding and foolish hope, even if Ryu was broken in ways that couldn't be fixed, the difference still mattered. The Leung investigation proved Zara's instincts correct. David Leung had gambling debts exceeding $200,000 to Victor's organization. In exchange for not having his hands broken, he'd agreed to steal his co-founder's designs and sell them to a shell company Victor controlled. Simple, elegant, and completely predictable, Ryu said during the debrief in his office. Zara was present now for these meetings, her role as observer officially recognized. Victor's been doing variations of this for years. Find someone vulnerable, exploit them, profit. So what do we do? Thomas Park had been invited to hear the results, his face pale with the betrayal. David's my oldest friend. We started the company together. You have 3 options. Ryu counted them off with the clinical precision of a surgeon. 1, I approach Victor, buy out the debt, and return Leung to you with a stern warning. Cost $250,000 plus interest. That's outrageous. That's business. Option 2, I eliminate the threat. Leung disappears, Victor understands this territory is off limits, you find a new co-founder. Cost $100,000. Park looked sick. You mean kill him? I mean solve your problem permanently. Option 3, I arrange evidence that makes Victor's shell company's theft illegal and traceable. The FBI gets involved, both Victor and Leung face federal charges, you walk away clean. Cost $50,000 plus some minor legal fees. Why is the legal option cheapest? Zara asked. Ryu's smile was sharp. Because it costs me the least to execute and gives me leverage with Victor. I can offer to make the evidence disappear if he backs off Park's company entirely. It's strategic, not just reactive. Option 3, Park said immediately. I don't want David dead, just stopped. Smart choice. Ryu made a note. Jin will handle the details. But Park, learn from this. Trust is a weapon in our world. Make sure you're not arming your enemies." After Park left, Zara stayed behind. Something had been bothering her about the whole situation. "Victor's going to know you're behind this," she said. "Won't that escalate things?" "Probably." Ryu didn't seem concerned. "But Victor's smart enough to recognize when he's outmaneuvered. He'll lose some money and reputation, but it's contained. A small defeat, not a war. Unless he decides to make it personal, then he dies," said with the same casual tone someone might use to discuss weather. "Victor knows this. I know this. It's mutually assured destruction, which keeps us in balance." Zara studied him, the cold efficiency, the total lack of emotion about potentially killing another human being. This was the serpent everyone warned her about, not the man who'd touched her face in the garden, but the predator who'd built an empire on calculated violence. "Does it ever bother you?" she asked quietly. "The killing? Should it?" Most people would say yes. Ryu turned from the window where he'd been staring out at the garden. "Most people don't have to choose between their survival and their morality. I did. I chose survival, and I'm still alive, while dozens of men who thought they could take my territory are dead. That's what matters in this world. That's bleak. That's honest." He moved closer, and Zara was struck again by how different he was from Devon. Where Devon had used proximity to intimidate, Ryu moved like he was giving her space to choose, stay or retreat. "You asked me once if I felt anything when I killed. The truth? I feel satisfaction when a threat is eliminated, relief when someone under my protection is safe, sometimes even a kind of peace when the violence ends. But not guilt. No, not anymore." His voice dropped lower. "Do you think that makes me a monster?" Zara thought about it honestly. "I think it makes you a survivor who did what was necessary. Whether that's monstrous depends on whether survival is worth the cost." "And you think?" "I think," she chose her words carefully, "I think you're more alive than you give yourself credit for. The dead don't ask philosophical questions about their own morality." Something flickered in Ryu's eyes. Surprise again, that emotion he claimed not to feel. "You're dangerous, Zara." "How?" "You make me think about things I've spent 8 years not thinking about." Before she could respond, Jin burst in, phone in hand and expression grim. "We have a problem. The Jade Clan just sent a message. They want a meeting about Zara." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ryu's face went from contemplative to absolutely cold. "When?" "Tomorrow night. Neutral ground. They say it's about territorial respect, but..." Jin glanced at Zara. "They want to know if you're serious about claiming her." "Of course I'm serious." "Then they're going to test that. Probably demand compensation for you disrupting Devon's wedding, or trying to push boundaries to see how far you'll go to protect her." Ryu was silent for a long moment, that terrifying calculation happening behind his eyes. Then, "Set up the meeting. And Jin, make sure Hana's team is positioned around the location. If this goes wrong, I want overwhelming force available." After Jin left, Zara found her voice. "What does this mean?" "It means the Jade Clan sees you as an opportunity, a way to test my resolve or extract concessions." Ryu's jaw tightened. "They're right. You are a vulnerability now. Anyone who wants to hurt me knows hurting you is the fastest route. So what do I do?" "You stay here, stay safe, and let me handle this." "No." The word burst out before Zara could think better of it. "I'm not hiding while you negotiate my life. If this meeting is about me, I should be there." "Absolutely not." "Why? Because I'm weak? Because I'll mess up your strategy?" She moved closer, anger rising. "I'm not some damsel you rescued, Ryu. I made the choice to kiss you, to stay here, to learn your world. Don't infantilize me now. It's not about capability, it's about risk. Everything's a risk. You said it yourself. Vulnerability gets people killed. But maybe having me there shows I'm not just a weakness, that I'm willing to stand with you publicly." Ryu stared at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. A real smile, sharp and genuine. "You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe, or maybe I'll surprise you again." "You keep doing that." He touched her face, just his fingertips against her cheek, the gentleness still startling. Fine, you come to the meeting, but you follow my lead exactly. No improvising, no heroics. Understood? Understood. His thumb traced across her bone cheek, and Zara felt her breath catch. For a moment they were frozen there, his hand against her face, his dark eyes searching hers for something he couldn't quite name. Then his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He stepped back, already returning to business, but Zara had seen something in his expression. Not emptiness, something confused and frightened and achingly vulnerable. Maybe Hana was wrong. Maybe the serpent could feel. He just didn't know how anymore. Wait, don't you dare leave yet. You just witnessed Zara negotiate her way into a meeting with one of Seattle's most dangerous criminal organizations. And let's not forget Jin's warnings that getting close to Ryu is like playing with fire. Beautiful, warm, but guaranteed to burn. The tension is real, and it's about to get deadly. Here's what I need from you right now. Smash that like button if you think Zara should have stayed safe at home instead of walking into danger. Are you team stay safe, team stand with Ryu, or team she's making a huge mistake? Because honestly, choosing the dangerous protector over the safe option is either the bravest or dumbest thing she could do. Subscribe to Love and Tension because Part 2, Child. We've got Jade Clan confrontations, Hana's jealousy reaching critical levels, and Ryu's walls starting to crack. Not everyone's making it out of this unscathed. Have you ever chosen to face danger instead of hiding because you needed to prove something to yourself or someone else? Drop your story below. And where are you watching from? The next evening, Zara dressed in clothes Hana had selected with militant precision. Black pants, a fitted jacket that screamed competence without vulnerability, boots with practical heels. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun, minimal jewelry, everything chosen to project capability. You look like someone's assistant, Hana said critically, which is exactly what we want. Not a weakness, not a trophy, a professional. In the car, Jin went over the rules. Speak only if directly addressed. Keep your face neutral. Don't show fear, anger, or disrespect. The Jade Clan's leader, Chen Feng, is old school. He'll expect women to be decorative or absent. Use that. Let him underestimate you. And if things go wrong, they won't, said Ryu flatly, because I'll make it clear that touching you is suicide. The meeting location was a restaurant in the International District, closed for the evening, which was clearly intentional. Ryu's team had arrived first, Jinhei explained, sweeping for bugs and weapons and establishing their own security perimeter. Inside, the restaurant was beautiful. Red lanterns cast warm light over dark wood tables, and the smell of ginger and garlic lingered from the kitchen. But the beauty was undercut by the men stationed around the room, Jade Clan soldiers, hard-eyed and armed. Chen Feng sat at the main table, flanked by his lieutenants. He was probably 60, with silver hair and the kind of face that looked grandfatherly until you saw his eyes. They were empty as Ryu's, but with a cruelty that suggested he enjoyed the violence, where Ryu merely accepted it. Ryu Te-jin, Feng's voice was accented but clear. You bring the woman. Interesting choice. She's part of this discussion. She should be present. Ryu gestured for Zara to sit beside him, Jin on his other side, Hana standing behind like a lethal shadow. The kiss was quite public, Feng continued, studying Zara with predatory interest. In our culture, such displays have meaning. Are you claiming this woman as your own? I am. Even though she was married to one of Victor's people? That creates complications. Devon was irrelevant. His connection to Victor was minor. I've already dealt with him. Feng's smile was thin. Dealt with him how? Permanently enough that he won't return. Ryu's voice stayed level, giving nothing away. The question is whether you have a problem with my actions. The question, Feng corrected gently, is whether your attachment to this woman makes you vulnerable. Several of my people think you're growing soft. A public display of affection? The serpent doesn't do affection. Zara felt the tension ratchet up. This was the test Jin had warned about. Feng was probing for weakness, looking for confirmation that Ryu's feelings for her could be exploited. Ryu's expression didn't change. Your people are mistaken. This isn't affection, it's strategy. The words stung even though Zara had expected them. She kept her face carefully neutral, channeling every lesson from the past week. Strategy? Feng leaned forward, interested now. Explain. Victor's organization has been pushing into my southern territories. Small moves, testing boundaries. Devon was part of that push. His wedding was meant to establish Victor's presence in that neighborhood, using social connections to build influence. Ryu's voice was clinical, emotionless. By claiming his bride, I sent a clear message. Victor's expansion stops. The woman herself is irrelevant. The symbolism is everything. Zara's stomach twisted. Irrelevant. Just a chess piece in a game she barely understood. But Feng was nodding. Smart, using Victor's own pawn against him. And now? Now she stays under my protection until Victor accepts the new boundaries. When that's accomplished, she'll return to her normal life with appropriate financial compensation for the inconvenience. Every word was a knife. Zara forced herself to sit still, to keep breathing steadily. This was an act, she told herself. He was saying what Feng needed to hear to keep her safe, but the clinical dismissal felt too real. And if Victor doesn't accept? One of Feng's lieutenants asked. If he sees this as an invitation to war, then he dies, and whoever replaces him will be more reasonable. Ryu glanced at Zara briefly, his expression unreadable. But I don't think it will come to that. Victor's smart enough to recognize when he's lost a piece without losing the board. Feng sat back, considering. The silence stretched painfully. Then, I accept your explanation. The Jade Clan has no quarrel with your strategic use of resources, but a word of advice, Ryu. Be careful that your strategy doesn't become something more. Emotions are weapons in our world. Make sure yours isn't pointed at yourself. I appreciate your concern. Ryu's tone made clear he didn't. Are we done? Almost. Feng's smile returned. There's the matter of compensation. You disrupted a wedding in a neighborhood where my people have interests, caused quite the scene. I think some acknowledgement is appropriate. This was it, the real reason for the meeting. Feng wanted payment for allowing Ryu's power play to stand. Name your price, Ryu said flatly. The Thompson shipment, 3 weeks from now. I want 10%. Jin inhaled sharply beside Zara. Whatever the Thompson shipment was, it was significant. Ryu's jaw tightened fractionally, the only sign of his displeasure. 5%, and you provide additional security on the north route. 8%, no security. 6, with security. Final offer. Feng considered, then nodded. Done. Pleasure doing business, Ryu. They stood, the meeting clearly over. Zara followed Ryu's lead, keeping her expression neutral even as her mind reeled. In the car, silence reigned. Jin drove with aggressive precision, clearly angry. Hannah stared out the window, her expression grim. Ryu sat beside Zara, close to touch, but impossibly distant. You did well, he said quietly. Exactly what was needed. Staying silent and irrelevant? The bitterness leaked through despite her best efforts. Staying alive. His voice was sharp. Feng was looking for any excuse to escalate. If you'd shown emotion, fear, anything that suggested you mattered to me beyond strategy, he would have exploited it. This way, you're not a target. You're just a pawn that's already been played. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to keep you breathing. They didn't speak again until they reached the estate. Zara went straight to her room, needing space to process. She'd known this world was harsh. She'd seen Ryu's coldness, but hearing him describe her as irrelevant, as temporary, as just another resource to be deployed and discarded, it hurt, which was stupid. She'd known what this was. Trauma bonding, Ryu had called it. Her brain associating him with safety because he'd pulled her from danger. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But her feelings were real, even if the situation wasn't. A knock interrupted her spiral. It's Jin. Can I come in? She opened the door. Jin looked exhausted, his usual easy smile completely absent. That was brutal, he said without preamble. I'm sorry you had to sit through it. He was doing what was necessary. I understand that. Do you? Jin moved into the room, closing the door behind him. Because I'm not sure Ryu does. He's been in the study since we got back, drinking whiskey and staring at nothing. That's his pattern when he's done something that bothers him. He said I was irrelevant. He said what Fang needed to hear to keep you alive. There's a difference. Jin sat on the edge of the bed, running his hands through his hair. Look, I've been friends with Ryu for 15 years. I've seen him negotiate dozens of deals, handle hundreds of threats. He's always cold, always calculating. But tonight he was forcing it. Every word was chosen to convince Fang that you don't matter, but I could see how much it cost him to say them. How? Because he kept touching his wedding ring finger. Old habit from when his parents were alive. His dad used to wear a band, and when Ryu was stressed, he'd fidget with it. After they died, Ryu stopped wearing jewelry entirely, but the habit remained. Touching that spot means he's lying or uncomfortable. Zara looked down at her own hands. So what does that mean? It means you're not irrelevant to him, which terrifies him, because the last time Ryu cared about someone, they died violently, and he couldn't stop it. So he shuts it down, tells himself it's strategy, not feeling, builds walls and calls them tactics. Hana says he's never going to change. Hana's in love with a ghost, the man Ryu was before his parents died. That person doesn't exist anymore. Ryu's voice was sad. But the man he became, he's capable of more than he thinks. He's just too scared to try. What am I supposed to do with that information? That's up to you. You could walk away. I'd help you. Give you money, new identity, whatever you need. You could stay but keep your distance, be the irrelevant pawn he claimed you were. Or, Jin met her eyes, you could call him on his bullshit, force him to admit what he's feeling instead of hiding behind strategy. That sounds dangerous. Everything about Ryu is dangerous, but at least it would be honest. After Jin left, Zara sat in the quiet luxury of her room thinking about choices and honesty and the difference between them. She could stay safe, keep her head down, let Ryu maintain his fiction that she meant nothing. Eventually, the situation with Victor would resolve, and she'd be sent away with money and a fresh start. It was the smart choice, but Zara was tired of being smart. She'd been smart when she married Devon, when she stayed despite the abuse, when she ran to Seattle and tried to disappear. Smart had kept her alive, but made her small. Maybe it was time to be brave instead. She found Ryu in his study, exactly as Jin had predicted. He sat in the dark, a glass of whiskey in hand, staring out the window at the garden below. The paper lanterns cast dancing shadows across his face, making him look carved from stone. "You should be resting," he said without turning. "You should stop lying to me." That got his attention. He turned, and even in the dim light, she saw the surprise in his eyes. "Excuse me? Tonight, you told Fang I was irrelevant, strategic, temporary. You said those things to protect me, and I understand that." Zara moved closer, her heart pounding. "But you're still lying. To him, to yourself, to me, and I'm done accepting it." "Zara, no. You don't get to shut me down. Not this time." She stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the tension in his jaw, the way his hand tightened on the glass. "Jin told me about your tells, how you touch your ring finger when you're lying. You did it 6 times tonight while talking about me." Ryu's face went carefully blank. "Jin talks too much. Jin's a good friend who's tired of watching you pretend you're dead inside." Zara took a breath. "I'm not asking you to be someone you're not. I know you're damaged. I know you've done terrible things to survive. I know your world is brutal, and being close to you is dangerous. I know all of that. Then why are you still here? Because I'm damaged too. Because I understand survival. Because when you look at me, I feel seen in a way I haven't felt in years. Maybe that's trauma bonding. Maybe it's foolish. But it's real, and I'm tired of pretending it's not." Silence filled the study. Ryu set down his glass with careful precision, then stood. He moved toward her slowly, and Zara held her ground, even though every instinct screamed to back away from the predator. "You want honesty? His voice was low, dangerous. "Here's honesty. You terrify me. Not because you're weak. You're not. But because you make me feel things I thought I'd killed 8 years ago. When Feng questioned you tonight, I wanted to kill him. Not strategically, not coldly. I wanted to tear him apart for even looking at you that way. Ryu, I'm not done." He stopped inches away, and Zara could feel the heat radiating from him. "I lied tonight. To Feng, to my people, to you. You're not irrelevant. You're not temporary. You're becoming something I can't afford in my world. Someone who matters. And that's a weakness I can't have. Why does caring have to be weakness? Because everyone I've ever cared about has died or left. My parents killed because my father let sentiment cloud his judgment. Friends who got caught in crossfire. Even my first girlfriend who decided being with the serpent wasn't worth the danger. Caring gets people killed, Zara. So I stopped. Until now. Until now. The admission seemed to cost him, and I don't know what to do about that. Zara reached up slowly, giving him time to pull away. Her hand cupped his face, feeling the slight stubble, the tension in his jaw. "You could try letting it happen. See what it feels like." "I know what it feels like. Terrifying, dangerous, like standing on the edge of a cliff. Then let's jump together." For a long moment, they stood frozen in the lamplight, Zara's hand against his face, his dark eyes searching hers with something that looked almost like desperation. Then slowly, Ryu leaned down and kissed her. It was nothing like the first kiss, that desperate, impulsive collision. This was deliberate. His hand came up to cup the back of her neck, not roughly, just possessively. His lips moved against hers with careful intensity, and Zara felt something crack open in her chest. This was real, complicated and dangerous, and probably doomed, but real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ryu rested his forehead against hers. "This is a mistake," he said quietly. "Probably. You're going to get hurt. Maybe, but at least I'll feel something." Zara's hand slid to his chest, feeling his heartbeat, rapid, alive. "After years of Devon making me small, of feeling nothing but fear and survival, feeling anything is worth the risk." Ryu's hand came up to cover hers, pressing it against his heart. "I can't promise happy endings. I can't even promise I won't hurt you. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for honesty. If this is real for you, say it. If I matter, admit it. Stop hiding behind strategy and cold calculation. You matter." The words seemed torn from him. "God help us both, but you matter." It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't poetry or romance, but it was honest, and that counted for something. They stayed like that for a long time, tangled together in the lamplight. Two broken people trying to figure out if being broken together was better than being broken alone. Outside, the garden's paper lanterns swayed in the wind, and somewhere in the city, dangerous people plotted dangerous things. But in that moment, in that study, Ryu and Zara had something that felt almost like peace. It wouldn't last, they both knew that. But for now, it was enough. 3 months after the Jade Clan meeting, Zara stood in the warehouse that would become her community center. It was rough still, concrete floors, exposed beams, the smell of fresh paint lingering. But she could see what it would become, a space where cultures collided and created something new. "You're sure about the location?" Ryu's voice came from behind her. He'd been skeptical about the warehouse district, worried it was too exposed, too dangerous. But Zara had insisted. This neighborhood needed something positive, something that brought people together instead of tearing them apart. "I'm sure." She turned to face him, still struck by how much had changed in 3 months. He looked the same, sharp suit, carefully controlled expression, but there were small differences. The way he stood closer now, the way his eyes tracked her with something warmer than calculation. "The contractors start Monday," he said. Jin's handling the permits, which is probably illegal but efficient. Hana's installing security that will make this place safer than most government buildings, all while maintaining the community center aesthetic. She promises no visible cameras. I have my doubts. A slight smile crossed his face. Still rare, still startling when it appeared. Tell me again what you're planning? They'd had this conversation a dozen times, but Ryu kept asking, not because he didn't understand, but because he was trying to see the world the way Zara did, where community and culture could be strength instead of vulnerability. Korean martial arts classes, Zara said, moving through the space and pointing, but taught alongside African dance, not separate, integrated. Kids learn discipline and movement together, see how different cultures approach the same goals. Over there, language exchange. English, Korean, and I want to add Yoruba if I can find teachers. Your grandmother's language? Exactly. And there, she gestured to the far wall, art space. Graffiti meets calligraphy. Hip-hop meets K-pop. Everything that shows culture isn't static. It evolves, blends, creates something new. Ryu was quiet for a moment, studying the empty warehouse with that calculating expression. Then, "You're building what you wished existed when you were hiding from Devon, a place that celebrates complexity instead of demanding simplicity. I'm building what this city needs, people living on top of each other, scared of anyone different, being told diversity is weakness." Zara moved back to his side. "I want to prove its strength, that when cultures collide, they don't destroy, they create. It's ambitious. It's necessary." She looked up at him. "Your world taught me that. How you blend Korean tradition with American business, how Jin navigates both cultures, even how you and I—" She stopped. "How we collide?" Ryu's hand came up to her face, that gentle touch still surprising. "You're right. We shouldn't work. Black American and Korean, criminal and survivor, everything says we're too different. But we're not." "No." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "We're the same kind of broken, same kind of survivor. That matters more than the surface differences." A sound from the doorway made them step apart. Jin entered, laptop under one arm, his expression caught between amusement and concern. "Interrupting something?" "Just planning," Zara smiled at him. Jin had become a genuine friend over the past months, his easy warmth balancing Ryu's intensity. "You have the final permit?" "I have a permit that will pass inspection and won't generate uncomfortable questions. Whether it's technically final depends on your definition of legal." Jin grinned. "But yes, you're clear to start construction. What about Victor?" "Business, always business. He accepted the boundary adjustment. Hasn't made a move in 6 weeks. I think we're stable." Jin set down his laptop. "Which brings me to the uncomfortable question. How long is Zara staying in the estate?" The question hung in the air. They'd avoided discussing it, both knowing that Ryu's initial justification, keeping her safe from Victor, was wearing thin. The immediate danger had passed. Zara could leave, set up her own life, visit the community center without living under Ryu's protection. She could be free. "I was thinking about that," Zara said slowly. "I need my own space, not because this isn't comfortable, but because I need to prove I can stand alone." She saw the flash of something in Ryu's eyes, not quite hurt, but close. He covered it quickly, his mask sliding back into place. "That's reasonable. I was thinking that apartment building 3 blocks from here, the one Jin mentioned last week, close enough to the center that I can walk, far enough from your estate that I'm not living in your shadow. That neighborhood's rough. I grew up in rough neighborhoods. I'll survive." She moved closer to him, her hand finding his. "This isn't me leaving. It's me standing on my own feet, being your equal instead of your protected refugee." Understanding dawned in Ryu's expression. "The Korean fusion victory," he said quietly. "What?" "Something Jin said months ago, about how we work because we blend our strengths. Your resilience and community instinct from your background. My strategic thinking and resources from mine. Together, we're stronger than apart, but only if we're actual partners, not protector and protected." "Exactly." Zara squeezed his hand. "I need to build something that's mine, this community center, an apartment, a life, but that doesn't mean you're not part of it. You just can't be all of it." Jin was watching them with open fascination. This is the healthiest relationship conversation I've ever heard in Ryu's office. I'm going to go before someone gets shot to restore normalcy. After Jin left, Ryu pulled Zara closer. You're right, about all of it. I've been keeping you safe, but also keeping you dependent. That's not partnership. It's also not you being deliberately controlling. It's you being terrified. Zara rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat. I scare you because you care, but caring doesn't mean controlling. It can mean supporting. I'm learning that. Slowly. His arms came around her, and for a moment they just stood there in the empty warehouse. When the center's finished, what are you going to call it? Zara had thought about this for weeks. The name mattered. It needed to capture what she was building. Bridges. Because that's what it is. Connecting cultures, communities, people who thought they were too different to meet in the middle. Bridges. Ryu tested the word. I like it, though Hana will probably make jokes about burning them. Hana can help teach the self-defense classes, channel her aggression into something productive. She'll love that suggestion. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching sunset light stream through the high windows. In 3 months, this space would be full of voices and movement and life. Kids learning discipline through martial arts and expression through dance. Adults discovering languages and cultures. Art covering walls that had only known industrial grime. It was ambitious, probably impossible, but Zara had learned that impossible was just another word for difficult. And she was good at difficult. I should warn you, Ryu said quietly. The life you are building, independent, public, making connections across the city, it's going to draw attention. Not all of it good. People will see your connection to me and try to exploit it. Let them try. Zara pulled back to look at him. I survived Devon. I survived entering your world. I can survive whatever comes next. We, Ryu corrected. We can survive whatever comes next, because you're right, we're stronger together. But that means when threats come, I'm coming with you, even if I don't ask, especially if you don't ask. His smile was sharp. I'm the serpent, remember? Protecting what's mine is what I do. I'm not yours. You're not my possession, he agreed, but you're mine in the way that matters. Partner, equal. The person who makes me feel things I thought were dead. That's a different kind of ownership, the kind you choose. Zara kissed him then, because words weren't enough. His response was immediate, his hands pulling her closer with a hunger that still surprised her. Every touch felt electric. Every kiss reminded her that she was alive, choosing, building something real. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Ryu rested his forehead against hers. This isn't the ending, is it? He asked. This is just another beginning. The best things are, Zara smiled. We build the center, I get my apartment, you continue running your empire, and we figure out what partnership looks like when neither of us is hiding behind walls anymore. Terrifying. Worth it. Yes. He kissed her forehead gently. Yes, it is. 6 months later, Bridges Community Center opened with a celebration that brought together communities that usually stayed separate. Korean families mixed with black families, recent immigrants with third-generation Americans. Music pulsed, K-pop remixed with Afrobeat, creating something entirely new. Ryu stood at the edge of the celebration, watching Zara move through the crowd. She'd choreographed a performance for the opening. Traditional Korean fan dance merged with West African movements. The result was stunning, both familiar and completely original. Jin appeared at his side, handing him a bottle of water. She did it, actually pulled it off. Liar. But Jin's smile was warm. You doubted every day for 6 months, worried she'd be targeted, that Victor would retaliate, that the Jade clan would see it as weakness. But here we are. No attacks, no problems, just a successful community center in the middle of your territory. Success makes enemies nervous. They don't know how to fight it. Or maybe, Jin said quietly, they're starting to wonder if your way, the community way, the fusion way, might be better than the old violence. Did you see Chen Feng's people at the martial arts demonstration? The Jade clan is taking notes. Ryu had noticed. It was unexpected, But then, everything about the past 6 months had been unexpected. Zara moving into her own apartment, but spending most nights at the estate anyway. The community center becoming a legitimate success, drawing positive attention instead of criminal interest. His own reputation shifting from purely fear-based to something more complex. The serpent who built bridges instead of burning them. It wasn't soft. He still ran his empire with calculated efficiency, still made hard decisions and enforced brutal consequences when necessary, but now there was another side. The legitimate businesses growing, the community investment, the sense that power could build as well as destroy. Zara had done that, not by changing him, but by showing him what was possible when survival wasn't the only goal. "She's looking at you," Jin said, amusement clear in his voice. Across the crowd, Zara caught his eye and smiled. Not the careful smile she'd worn those first days, but something genuine and joyful. She was happy, safe, building something that mattered. Ryu smiled back. Later, after the celebration ended and the cleaning crew worked through the space, Zara found him in his car, waiting. "Thought you'd left," she said, sliding into the passenger seat. "And miss your victory lap? Never." He pulled her close, kissing her with the intensity of someone who'd been restraining himself all evening. "You were brilliant tonight. We were brilliant. None of this happens without your resources, your protection, your willingness to try something different. Your idea, your execution. I just supported." "Exactly. Partnership." Zara rested her head on his shoulder. "So what's next? You've got that look, the one that means you're planning something. Victor's organization is crumbling. Infighting, financial problems, losing territory. I could move in, take what he built, expand my empire." Ryu paused. "Or I could let it collapse and fill the vacuum with something like this. More centers, more legitimate businesses. Build community instead of fear. That's ambitious. I learned from the best." His arm tightened around her. "But it's risky. Some people won't accept the change. They'll fight back, try to prove the old ways still work, which means you're going to be a target again. So we face it together. Together." He kissed the top of her head. "Equal partners in a dangerous world trying to prove culture fusion beats cultural war. How very optimistic of us." "How very terrifying," Zara corrected. But she was smiling. Because terrifying was just another word for alive. And after years of just surviving, being alive, truly, completely alive, was worth any risk. 2 years later, Bridges had expanded to 3 locations across Seattle. Ryu's empire had shifted dramatically, 60% legitimate now, with the illegal operations becoming more about information and protection than violence and drugs. Victor was gone, his organization dissolved, replaced by a coalition that preferred profit to war. Chen Feng had grudgingly admitted that the fusion model worked. The Jade Clan had opened their own community center, focused on traditional culture preservation, but with a modern twist. Seattle's underground was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing. Zara stood in the original Bridges location, watching a class of teenagers practicing capoeira, the Brazilian martial art that blended fighting and dance. Another fusion, another bridge between cultures. Her phone buzzed. "Dinner tonight? My place or yours?" After 2 years, they still maintained separate residences. Zara's apartment had become home in a way the estate never could. Her space, her rules, her life. But they moved between locations seamlessly. Partnership built on independence rather than dependence. "Yours," she texted back. "But I'm cooking. Your kitchen is better. Deal." "Hana says you're teaching advanced self-defense next week?" She volunteered to demonstrate. "I think she likes being useful beyond bodyguard duty. She likes that you gave her purpose beyond waiting for me to notice her." It had taken a year, but Hana had finally accepted that Ryu wasn't going to love her the way she wanted. She'd grieved, gotten angry, and then, surprisingly, become Zara's fierce ally. She ran security for all 3 Bridges locations now, training women and girls in self-defense while maintaining her role in Ryu's organization. Another fusion, another bridge. That evening, Zara arrived at the estate with groceries, ingredients for a meal her grandmother had taught her. Korean flavors mixed with African spices. Ryu's kitchen was indeed better, with its professional-grade equipment and endless counter space. She found him in the study, video call in progress. Korean voices filled the air. Business negotiations from the sound of it. He glanced up as she entered, mouthed, 10 minutes, and returned to the conversation. Zara started cooking, the familiar rhythm soothing. Chop vegetables, heat oil, layer flavors. The kitchen filled with the scent of garlic and gochujang and something indefinably home. When Ryu appeared, loosening his tie, she handed him a beer. How'd the negotiation go? Successfully. We're expanding the import business into Japan. Completely legitimate. Surprisingly profitable. He sipped the beer, watching her work. What are you making? Fusion jollof. Rice with Korean chili paste, African spices, and whatever vegetables looked good at the market. Might be terrible. Might be brilliant. He moved behind her, arms circling her waist. Like everything else you create. They ate on the balcony, overlooking the garden, paper lanterns glowing in the dusk. The conversation flowed easily. Her day at the center, his business expansion, Jin's latest dating disaster, Hana's increasingly creative security measures. It was domestic, normal, the kind of evening Zara had never imagined during those first terrified days. I've been thinking, Ryu said as they finished eating, about what comes next. Expansion to California? You mentioned that last month. Bigger. He set down his fork. The empire I built was about survival, about being feared enough that enemies didn't dare attack. It worked, but it's not sustainable. Eventually, someone younger and hungrier comes along. That's how these things end. So I want to build something that lasts beyond fear. The community centers, the legitimate businesses, the cultural fusion model. That's a legacy, not just a survival strategy. Zara studied him in the lantern light. 2 years ago, he'd been the serpent, cold, calculated, proud of his emptiness. Now he talked about legacy and community and building instead of destroying. You've changed, she said softly. You changed me. He took her hand. Or maybe you just showed me it was possible to change, that broken doesn't mean dead, that caring isn't weakness if you're smart about it. Partnership. He brought her hand to his lips. 2 broken people who decided being broken together was better than being alone, who built something neither of us could have built separately. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said. Don't get used to it. I'm still the serpent, still calculating, still ruthless when necessary. But now, he smiled, now I'm the serpent who builds bridges instead of burning them. Thanks to you. Thanks to us, Zara corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without your resources.